smaller wells bigger? Is there just add docking to them or anything?
According to my heart books, it does.
So I'm looking on their website, and it says if you can't afford it, I can't afford it. Fill out this thingamajig. I get a $10 copay, so I go to Costco for $10 and get my drugs. And I'm going, this is the most absurd system in the world. That
I think people are getting bigger boats rather than smaller boats. You know, back in the day.
Going back to the bigger boats,
Okay.
what are the downsides of that?
how can this is an unmanageable.
It might not be too far
We
down.
ready? We're on. We're being recorded.
It's really hard to see.
This is where we've ended up.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
And paying $14,000 for retiree health care.
Yep, yes.
Unbelievable.
I'm sorry?
That's part of
Where's the
the deal with selling the water.
you don't have the coverage.
Ready? We're almost ready.
Almost ready. One more minute,
I'm
Tom.
paying about $500 a month right now for supplemental to my
Medicare.
And then on top of that, another $250 a month for prescription for my wife. And we're taking $750 a month plus the Medicare.
$1,000.
So $1,000. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and of course I've got a really good policy, but which right now I'm glad I do.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Ready? Sure. Let's call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bruce, roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrett,
Here.
Councilmember Bisbal,
Here.
Councilmember Ellis,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gazelle,
Here.
Mayor Kaczynski,
Here.
Councilmember Cusick.
Here.
And Dr. Angeloni called and asked to be excused. He's out of town, so I need a motion to excuse Alex.
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
On page 3 to 8 are the minutes from the last council meeting, including the action taken by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Again, page 3 to page 8. I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. There are no committee or commission minutes, so public comment. Public comment? Yes.
Good evening, everybody. George Nichols at 51 Fontana Lane. I'm here tonight to comment on the agenda item 12A, which is regards to tennis court bids. I know the engineer's recommendation is to award the project to Nagel Paving with the inclusion of both alternate items, deducts that is. In particular, the item number 1, which is the deduction of $69,440 to install the Plexachrome courts in lieu of the Plexacushion Prestige courts. The price difference is about $70,000, and that can be used elsewhere in the park, whether it be for future maintenance of the courts, lighting of the courts, the security cameras in the park, even helping to defer some of the costs to repave the entire parking lot, which we all know is in desperate need of repaving, or even to pay for some of the scanning equipment that was talked about before for the park passes at the gatehouse. I am in favor of the 3 layers and not the 5 layers, and hope that the council would follow the advice of our engineer to save some significant money. We voted you on to make some sound and wise decisions on our behalf of the residents, and hope that we have the opportunity to see that happen tonight. So, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Any more public comment? If not, this is really the delightful part of the meeting. We are going to have a proclamation. Could all the Grosse Pointe Wood Shores Little Leaguers come up? And the coaches?
Would you like this, Mayor, would you like this in front?
Yes, in front, facing the,
Ted, why don't you move that easel so?
Good. How are you? Oh, sure. It was a pleasure.
You guys done a great job.
Loved watching it.
all raising. Well, we're so pleased and proud of this team. So the Grosse Pointe Wood Shores Little League team, the 12 and under All-Star Tournament team, won the 2017 Regional Championship Tournament, Westfield, Indiana, after being named the State of Michigan Little League champion and advancing to the 71st Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania for the third time in league history. Whereas the championship team was led by manager Jason Gell, two assistant coaches Andy Arott, Mark Arsenal, and under the direction of Dick Borland. Okay. The team consisted of Tommy Harris, Braden Campbell, Matthew Green, Joey Randazzo, Tommy Scheck, Drew Hill, Will Flom, Adam Aerol, and Joseph Wojnowski, Chase Reinhardt, Jack Jones, George Arsenal, and Ryan Jones. And whereas stated by Dick Borland, the president of Grosse Pointe Wood Shores Little League, the program has been an outstanding recreational program in our community since 1954. And the rise of the Grosse Pointe Wood Shores Little League International All-Star Tournament team to the state title, regional championship, and advancing to the 71st World Series was impressive, representing the village of Grosse Pointe Shores, Michigan City, with distinction displaying commitment, discipline, outstanding sportsmanship, as well as talent. And now therefore, I, Ted Kaczynski, Mayor of the Grosse Pointe Shores, on behalf of the entire City Council and the residents, express the appreciation of the community for the efforts of the players, the coaches, and the volunteers of the Wood Shores Little League 12 and under All-Star Tournament team, also known as the Great Lakes Region Champions, in recognition of their outstanding accomplishments. Signed today by all of us. Thank you very much.
Adam, come down a little bit.
Bring them all in there, yeah.
Down a little bit, so we can tighten up a little bit. Stand.
Here,
You guys hold this up front.
Hold that up in front. Do we have the other ones to hold up?
Guys,
You
grab-
want to give each one?
Yes.
Turn out, what a big enthusiastic group out there. That was great. So proud of them.
Everybody have one of those?
They started with 7,
You must have two missing.
oh, it's really 16.
Okay.
let's have a big help.
Old there, sure.
And we have T-shirts too. We have shirts. Make sure everybody
I
takes
will
it.
pass those out on Saturday.
Okay, good.
We'll have a big party. Thank you again. We don't mean to come in and out. A lot of kids are playing.
No.
Did a great job. Thanks.
Thank you again. for
Thank
everything.
you, thank you. We'd follow you if we could. You sure you don't need any help going up to the car?
Anything bread?
The Little League World Series team has had an event in Williamsport for 71 years, and only 8 teams from Michigan have advanced to Williamsport. 3 now from Grosse Pointe Wood Shores, so 3 out of 8. And what makes it even more impressive is how hard it is to get there. So in 8 years, 8 years out of 71 years, a team from Michigan advanced to Williamsport. But in the first game of the double elimination tournament, the regionals, they played Ohio, good old Ohio. And Ohio won pretty easily, 10-2. And then the second game, the very next day, I think game 1 was August 7th. The very next game was August 8th. So you have no time to commiserate. You got beat. And you get beat again, you're out. So August 8th, they play Indiana. And going in the 5th inning, the team was down 3-1. But they scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 5th inning, and it's a 6-inning game, and they won the game 4-3. So, and then they won out. So they finally beat Ohio, I think, in the semifinals, and then beat Illinois for the championship. So what an honor, what a distinction for our Grosse Pointe Wood Shores Little League. We have a committee appointment here. Dr. Virginia Rice, would you like to come forward? Come to the podium. It's a little easier to get there now without the baseball team there. Soon, soon. Well, I've recommended, Dr. Rice has applied to be a member of the Park and Harbor Committee, actually, I think several months ago, and I'd like to appoint her to the committee. But Doctor, would you like to say a few words about, your passion for the city?
Yeah, I'm delighted to serve on this committee. I've already been several of their meetings and trying to catch up. But as most of you know, I've played tennis there for close to 40 years. Also, we've had a boat there for about 30 years. So, and our grandchildren head for that park as soon as they get off the airplane. So there's much I care about there. So I'm honored to serve on the committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. So I need a motion to approve Dr. Rice to the Park and Harbor Committee.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Welcome aboard, Dr. Rice. All right. Our next item, we're going into public hearing. I need a motion to convene as the zoning board of appeals.
So moved.
Is there support? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Mary? At this point, this is the city council sitting as the zoning board of appeals to hear a variance application for 31 Colonial Road.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. 31 Colonia Road, Mr. and Mrs., and I'm hoping to pronounce this correctly. There's a big cough. Is that close enough? Thank you. Actually, they're requesting a variance, and the plans have been revised. They revised to include the roof line change and the height change to lower the impact of the neighbor's home to the west. Also, the motion was made to approve a garage setback with elimination of the windows on the west side, 27% on the second floor dormer, rather. Also to deny the rear yard setback of 2 feet 6 inches and approve coverage of 27% front yard impervious surface coverage of 45%. And it was approved unanimously. If there are any questions, I believe that Mr. and Mrs. Urban.
Would you like to come forward and
Here, and if you have any questions, please.
okay, yes, thank you, Mary.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, Council. My name is Robert Erzbischoff. I'm joined by my wife, the voice of intelligence and reason, and
course.
my friend Eric. He's an attorney. I applied a long time ago for this specific blueprint and variance, and I received it back in 2009 when I purchased the home. And the home was a rundown, bank foreclosed. The previous owner let all the pipes freeze. And I did have a new home in Grosse Pointe Woods that I built 20 years before that. My children went to school with probably some of yours, and I did write a letter to you. Hopefully you've had a chance to read some of it. The reason I want to talk today is mainly because when I went to the Planning Commission, I went there hoping to get my original plan, and then I was, informed that the variance had lapsed. I don't know why, my ignorance, I thought it was just a variance was separate from a building permit, so the original 2009 variance lapsed. So I applied, and I gave my reasons why I felt that it was a hindrance if you applied the strict zoning variances to my addition. On the floor there, you can see the designs that I came up with, and this is the new footprint. This is the building to my east, and this is the building to my west. I did send out letters to everyone. I got 34 in agreement, similar to the account that I got the first time, with one exception, my neighbor, Jim Beck, who in the first zoning planning commission's meeting requested that I move the house back so he could have a view of the lake. And so I was trying to be accommodating, and I moved it back. And then in the second meeting, he changed his mind completely and said, well, let's move it forward because I don't want anybody looking over my backyard and my patio. Well, let's face it, everybody has neighbors in the city. We all love this city. I quoted you, Mr. Mayor, that from a speech you gave a long time ago, that this is an upscale community, and that's basically why I went from a brand-new home in Grosse Pointe Woods to here. This is the house of my dreams. I doubt that I'd move again, unless we retire in Florida or somewhere, but those plans are changing. I did receive some unsolicited responses from all the way from Renard to Lockmore, from people agreeing that it was a nice design. The city planner, David Skirdo, wrote specifically that, I quoted him, that he liked the design. It didn't impose its height or elevation. And speaking of the original design, on anyone, it fit into the block nicely. I had a lot of details in the brickwork. It's all brick. It's a more of an upscale design. I did agree to building a partition fence for construction dust that my neighbor was concerned with. I have the ability to move it forward or back, but when I originally designed it, I looked at his house, talked with Mo, his wife, and said, well, if I moved it back a little bit, you'd still be able to see down the street. She liked that idea, so when I originally designed the house, I was trying to be accommodating. I'm trying to be accommodating at both of these hearings, and my neighbor was basically saying one thing at the beginning I changed and said something else. So I feel that I was wrongly convinced to change my design, and then when he suggested that I have no windows on the west side of my house, I mean, let's face it, I think that's ludicrous. Now, I know not everybody's going to agree. I mean, just like in a couple weeks, the Michigan State game, but most of us will agree that we don't want Ohio to win. So, I'm here to try to convince you to look at my original design and then look at the one that was passed. I believe that the original one, Plan A, and I did have Plan B and C, just to make some changes and have that option for that day, but when my neighbor was all over the map with his suggestions, that this is the one that got approved, and on the west side of the house, he didn't even want these windows. So, you can see that this is the original, and this one, Plan B, was the one that was approved. It's narrower here to go in my side door. You can see on the lot plan, I'm not using up my entire lot. I mean, I appreciate having a big backyard. I'm not really looking over his patio. His view goes down here. I supplied you regular photos, and I have a 6-foot brick wall running down my other property. I believe that all the homes in Grosse Pointe Shores and throughout the Grosse Pointe communities are very unique, and to fit in with the thought of more upscale housing, that's why I would appreciate it if you considered my original plan to be the one I truly want. I'm a little bit emotional about it. That's why I did bring my wife and Eric to explain any further. I know, like I said, the city planner who we pay to look at these things approved it. He liked it. He liked the design. He liked all the little key features that I put in it. I met with Mr. Wallenweber, and he seemed to like it. So I'm asking you for some consideration into approving my original plan, Plan A. Yes.
Why were the windows changed from A to B? You don't have that eyebrow window, or I'm not sure well, why did you take that out on B?
Because it actually is out already. When I redid the roof, now when I purchased the home, put it pleasantly, the fool that owned it went into bankruptcy. He abandoned the house, left the water on and running, and it froze. I've replaced the roof, the pipes, the heating, the cooling, the plumbing, the electrical, the floors, all the trim work, all the doors, even insulated a non-insulated house. So when I did it, I eliminated the eyebrows because they're a source of leaking. The upper dormers I took off, but this is an old plan that I drew in 2009.
So you don't want that one?
No.
Well, that's
I do-
Plan
I do
A,
want
though.
this, but not the specific little details, because a gutter going across this straight run is less likely to leak. I'm a builder, so I'm looking at the practicalities of it. It's easier to build this roof, I'll eliminate these upper windows without a problem, but it's easier to build straight walls, because if I do bring it in to accommodate this, then my walls on the inside of the house are 6 foot tall with a slant. I mean, you can't walk up the thing, and although I talked to Tom, he said that you would be taxed the square footage of the floor, even though it's only 6 foot tall. So there's a lot of reasons, besides being more efficient to heat and cool. I can have better insulation on Plan A, and it just flows better. It looks better, and I think it'll stand the test of time. So when I'm dead and gone, and Grosse Pointe Shores is still here, the house will still be here.
Then what is the difference between what I'm seeing as A
Yes.
and B of what you want to do? What are you asking?
Well,
What is the difference between A and B?
The height restriction is 30 feet. My original house is 29 feet. I put this at 27 feet to give a complaining neighbor something to be more amicable to him. But since he wish-washed so many times and comes up with crazy ideas, basically, this is the original. It's still at 29 all the way across. The height limit is 30. This one on the design in the rear is 2.5 feet for a variance on the lot plan, which, if you see here, is just this bump up. If you would like for me to move it forward, that would be an easy enough thing to do, keeping the same look of the entire house as a more elegant normal house.
15-foot setback.
The original house is in red dots here. I'm not adding
This is
that
what we
much
approved.
to it to
That's
be
B.
intrusive, I don't believe, to
B.
anyone else.
It's beautiful.
Yes, of course.
You're before us tonight for the plan that was voted on by the planning commission.
Pardon?
You're here tonight, and we're sitting as a zoning board for a plan that went through, and a site plan that went through the planning commission
Right.
that specifies some, certain setbacks in the recommendation that came forward. Your Plan A, if I'm not mistaken, is not the plan that was voted on. Mary, am I?
They voted
right.
on Plan B.
That is correct.
Okay, so the answer is yes. The plan that was voted, the plan that we're here tonight to decide upon to grant you a variance or not is Plan B. That's the plot, the site plan and the variances that we're asking for. Now, are you asking for something different? If that's the case, then this is not the appropriate forum to do that.
I'm, out of my ignorance, I thought it was.
Okay.
I thought the buck stopped with you guys, and
Ultimately, it does, but, you know, as any bureaucracy, it grinds ever so slowly and ever so finely.
okay.
But, I mean, so what do you want us to consider? Because if you want A, then you have to start, Mary, am I wrong? You have to start over.
I'm sorry to say, but you do have to start all over because we voted on certain items and setbacks, heights, et cetera, and
And no
that is the,
windows.
that is the law.
No. The windows
Ordinance.
issue was,
wasn't-
Mary, help me if I'm mistaken on this. We did not agree with the neighbor's issue on the windows. You offered a couple
correct.
of things.
No.
But that's not part of the.
No, that's not.
So the windows are not part of your restrictions.
All we're talking about is the setbacks,
Okay, the
height,
setback
that sort of thing.
that was approved, I can deal with. Can I go to a height that doesn't require a variance?
Sure,
My height-
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So then I can go,
29 feet, you could go 29 feet, sure.
30.
okay,
You're-
I'll agree to that.
The findings at our planning commission meeting was with respect to lot coverage, the west side setback, the rear yard setback, and the front yard surface at 45%, which includes the sidewalk. That's all we did, and that's what you're appealing from.
I'm
So
all for that.
you either want us to approve this or you start over.
If you'll approve it, then I can go to the 29-foot height. I'll be more than happy to be accommodating, and I appreciate you being accommodating to me.
Mark, you have no objections, right, for the 29 feet?
What
You don't have a
happened-
right to.
No,
It's
I
under
know.
the code.
Right.
You have the absolute right to build to that. We can't stop you from doing that. Now, as far as the other matters go about, you know, your aesthetic trim and your items on the outside of that, that's really not relevant here. That's,
Well, that's what I thought going into it. I usually, when I do design a lot and I do use architects. And usually if I design, I ask the building department, what are the variances? And I say, okay, if possible, if I'm building a brand new home, I'll build within those variance requirements. That's easy enough to do on paper. But I know when to stop talking, and you said I can build to 29 feet, so
Let me just add one thing. As I recall, you did agree to do some things such as the construction fence and all that. All that would still stay there. Yeah,
Yes, of course.
okay.
Not a problem whatsoever.
And I also wanted to add that we do listen to all the neighbors. They do not make up our minds how to vote. However, we must listen to everyone's complaints or
Right.
adjectives that they produce
Right.
in liking it or disliking it, but we take everything into
I
consideration.
appreciate that, and I mean, we're all in it for Grosse Pointe Shores and.
That's right.
And to make a community that everybody can be proud of, and
So the
that's why I
vote,
moved to-
the vote was unanimous, and Robert Gazelle abstained because he has to vote on the council part, and so therefore he abstained, but the rest of it was unanimous to proceed.
And this is a street that I think every house has a
Every
variance
house has a-
on
yes, a
Colonial Road.
variance of some kind, yes.
Our oldest street out of 52 streets. Mark, do you have any comments, or?
No, I just want to
can we make
indicate.
a motion then to approve it for this?
Motion.
We don't have to. I
Okay.
make a motion to grant the variance request as submitted by the planning commission, consistent with their recommendations and stipulations.
Second.
Any further discussion? Any public comment?
Mark, did you want to say something?
I was just going to indicate, I have to disclose, I went to school with his brother and his uncle that were in my Boy Scout troop, et cetera. So,
What can you tell us about it that we don't know?
he reminded me.
That is fast.
He's got a good car. Rest of the show.
Well, all those in favor of approving that motion, which has the multiple variances, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Congratulations, Robert.
It's a
Okay.
beautiful home. Good luck.
Yes,
It's
it is.
beautiful.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see it.
And he understands that the variance goes away if he doesn't construct it pretty quick.
What is the timeline on it? 1 year?
Written
Well, good luck. Congratulations, Robert.
Thank you.
Okay.
We're glad to see us.
Rhonda, next item is reports by
You need
chairpersons.
a motion to go out of.
Oh, I'm sorry. Need a motion to exit the zoning board of appeals and act as the city council.
So moved.
Is there support? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Sorry, Rhonda.
No problem. Good evening, everyone. In your packet, you have a listing of all the wire transfers for the month of September. The one item towards the bottom is the bond payments and the Honeywell Energy semi-annual payment. If you move on to the check register, you'll notice that we paid asphalt control for work done on Duval Road. There's also some checks issued for some tree trimming, our quarterly premium payment for the workman's comp, the payment for the majority part of the audit. There is another check issued to Asphalt Control on page 3 of the check register for roughly $7,600. And that was for some repair work on Duval Road caused by the DTE. But we have been reimbursed already for that total amount.
Rhonda, what is SWAT fee?
There's an annual SWAT fee of $2,500 that we pay to Grosse Pointe Park. All the Grosse Points contribute to that fund. This is for training and so forth for the SWAT members.
For, the jointly, and we have,
Oh, SWAT, okay.
Yep.
All right, my brain's fixed now.
Rhonda, the payment to the new CPA firm is, we've been discharged of any liability from the old firm, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And there'll be a smaller bill coming once the audit report is complete.
There's a bill for $803 for suits. What kind of suits are those?
That was for one of the officers as part of the union contract.
Oh, okay.
When do those union contracts come up again?
I don't know.
When are there, is that a yearly contract with the officers?
No.
They receive an annual clothing allowance, along with the
I know,
public
but
works.
some of them are different than the others, as we were noticing. When does all this,
The funds go into their account July 1st.
no, when does the,
Labor contract?
their labor
I
contract?
believe it's this next June, all the labor
June?
contracts.
Okay. And are we part of that? Those contracts, those labor negotiations?
Who, I mean, the council?
Yes.
Well, we work with Mark and the negotiating team
yeah.
in terms of that.
We'll have
to
a
approve it.
meeting to discuss strategies and issues that we want to change and what likely needs to be in the budget and stuff like that.
Okay.
We have a year and a half left, right?
I believe it's this next June.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
That's too quick.
If not, I need a motion to approve this check run for $526,414.
Get 2 years.
Radio antennas.
That's for the new radio reads for the water meters. So I believe they're $75 per antenna. And so we had to get another shipment of those in order to start, hopefully start completing all of the city.
Did the residents, do we pay you for those?
No. That's paid out of the water and sewer fund.
Okay.
So it's built into the water rates that we charge, and we funded that over the last 5 years.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, I need a motion to approve this check run.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Thanks, Rhonda.
Revenue and expenditure reports at this point, it's early in the budget year, so we are on track at this point. No big surprises yet. If you move to the balance sheet, the audit was completed, approximately a month ago. And I have not heard if there's going to be any adjustments made. But for one thing that looks like it will be pretty sure is that our fund balance in the general fund as of June 30th is basically $1.8 million, which does include funds that we've been setting aside for the capital equipment replacement, along with the park project.
Park. Okay, good. Any questions for Rhonda?
you said that on the balance sheet, we're still pretty new, but nothing looks out of sync to you. Is there anything down the road that you anticipate may concern you that might come up that, obviously, we don't know what can come up, but
Yeah,
anything?
the only thing is with our medical insurance premiums.
Okay.
The last quarter, we were paying monthly, basically $29,000 a month for all the active and retired members in the system. This quarter, it's bumped up to $42,000. So it could just be an increase in claims during a period of time. So hopefully, that will bounce back down. But we are self-funded, so it's what claims come through is what we need to pay. So.
We have an upcoming consortium meeting their staff will go through our specific claims, as well as the group to look at whether we increase our reinsurance or set a higher attachment point.
Yeah, our employee and retiree account, the total did not change. So it's a matter of the claims coming through.
Okay, so that's all that you foresee at this point that might
Yes.
cause a little bit of fluctuation? Okay.
And I know property taxes were due last Wednesday, for those who haven't paid. But, do we know how many foreclosures we have in the city?
0.
Resident asked me. No
There are no tax.
See the letter?
Yeah, I saw, that was forfeitures, not foreclosures.
Forfeit.
That was forfeitures, but I didn't know if we,
It's tax foreclosures, none that I'm aware of.
okay.
We would know about
We still
property.
have outstanding.
Probably
I
wouldn't,
didn't
that's
do
a,
a count, but I know we have to be around 90% collected. I know there was 3 parcels in the Macomb County portion that I noticed today had not paid, so we sent out reminder letters already today for those. One, I'm sure, normally they pay on time, so it could still be in the mail, for all I know.
Okay.
And I did not look at the Wayne County side, just general total numbers. It's not that big, so.
Okay.
I know the chief allows us to pay till midnight, I think, and then somebody goes there at 12:01 and locks that box up for timely receipt. Well, thank you, Rhonda.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bruce, Finance Committee report?
We met yesterday for a good 2.5 hours, talking. We hadn't been together for a while, so. The first thing I want to touch on is that, as the audit has been completed, we anticipate there will be a fund surplus this year to add to the general fund of about $50,000. Any monies over the 50 that we end up with post-audit adjustments, we are going to amend our budget and put those into the retiree health care account for the retirees. So that everyone understands, our retiree health care costs in the current year were roughly $400,000 for 32 people, for 32 policies, if you will. 200,000 of that was for health coverage, and almost 200,000 was for prescription drug coverage, which is just staggering that you have 200,000 in drug coverage in that. So we're going to fund, our balance in that account is over $2 million. So, but we're going to, since our fund balance target number has been achieved of about 25%, we're going to take the surplus and put it there. So that's step one. The second thing, we had a long, protracted discussion about where we're going in terms of the park, the gatehouse, personnel, and all that. So the consensus of the Finance Committee, along with the staff, was, in order for the council to make an informed decision about what the strategy needs to be, at this point, we need to do the staff needs to do several things with our assistance. Number one, we've talked about adding a park director. Prior to making a decision about a park director, we asked for a job description, an org chart, a budget number, where are they going to fit in, duties and responsibilities, reporting requirements, and what are they going to do over there? And then a recommendation from staff to us whether they want a park director. And then we can evaluate that going forward. On the next step, we asked about the gatehouse, park security, the in and out entrance, different ways to configure the system, the badging system, park passes and all that. What we again asked for was, if we're gonna add a gatehouse, how are we gonna staff it? What's it gonna cost? What are the hours gonna be? What are the duties and responsibilities? What are the operating procedures? The who, what, where, and why. So we all know at some point what we're making a decision. Everyone has an opinion about the concept of this, but no one has the costs about that. We've asked to do the same thing along with the construction costs for our gatehouse, the parking lot, increasing the parking area, so that we have, if you will, a comprehensive cost and a recommendation from staff about what they believe the best strategies are for the park. There are professional people, the chief's the security person. We also asked specifically that we contact, I believe it's Grosse Pointe City, because Neff Park, am I correct? Neff Park is identical to our park. They do not have, they have an entrance and then they have a gate guard. They do not have a guardhouse at the entrance. They've never instituted a gatehouse like we're talking about. So we want to talk to them and see if they've done any homework about why they haven't done that, if they looked at costs, what their thinking is, and try to see what their opinion is. Is it just another benchmarking thing? So we've asked them to do all of this. This is a lot of detail and a lot of costs. We asked them to report back to the Finance Committee within 30 days so that we can tweak it and do that and be able to present it to council within the next 60 days. So that when we're going to hopefully award the paving contract tonight for the tennis courts. That's a discrete standalone project, if you will. If we can make a decision knowing these costs in the next 60 to 90 days, we can dovetail onto that, these other phases of our program, and as Bob says, get this thing finished so that when we put a shovel in the ground, because we're not going to start construction until springtime, that's the recommendation of the paving people, that when we do this, if we're going to go forward, we know where we're going in the parking lot, incremental parking, gatehouse, personnel, and all that, so that, because I think at this point, we need to quit speculating, and the Finance Committee cannot do a budget going forward, and we're gonna be working on our budget without knowing these costs and what the staffing levels are gonna be. So once we have the costs, then we can argue about the merits. You know, we can just, then the council can, you know, put out their wisdom as to what they wanna do and solicit the input of the community to do that. So that's what we're doing on that side. A couple other things. As I said, we were here for a while. We're gonna have a presentation later tonight about the sewer and some monitoring that we need to do. I wanna forewarn everyone that we are gonna have some challenges going forward about our wastewater system in terms of meeting compliance standards, and we may have to spend some money down the road to get in compliance. It's early, but it's going to be something that we need to keep in our back of our minds. Last thing is we're going to be working on road projects. I think the consensus is that Duval, the way that Brett Smith did that project, was very successful. I think we got a tremendous bang for our buck, and I think barring any objections, we are going to certainly, the Finance Committee is going to encourage that approach in the coming year. So that's my story.
Thanks, Bruce. Any questions from council? Okay, thank you.
Well, actually, I guess just some clarification. When you were talking about the gatehouse and how you're gonna staff it and what are the hours, it's my understanding it's not gonna be any different than our current area right now.
I can't speak to that. That's my whole point. It's your understanding, my understanding. In lieu of us all speculating on what it's gonna be, I've asked the chief and Mark to tell us exactly what they're gonna staff, how they're gonna staff it. Are we gonna be there 365 days a year? What are we gonna do on court day? What are we gonna, so you know in your own mind, when somebody says to you, well, why are we staffing it that way? You can say, this is what the security people want to have happen. So that you know at this point that, okay, we're gonna have 2 people this way, so, because we don't know. We don't know what it's gonna cost. We don't know. That.
Then why aren't we I'm sorry to interrupt, but why are we talking to the city who doesn't have this? Why aren't we talking to the other 4 points that have a gatehouse, and how do they handle all of their
We've
staffing
talked to
and
them
all that?
on numerous occasions.
Okay.
The point is that there is a similar community with the identical setup that we have that has chosen not to go down that path. What thinking do they have that's different than ours? So we can find out. It may be that they just don't want to. It's not a concern of their residents. I don't know, but I think we should ask that question and have it doc. So our residents at least know that, hey, we've done a due diligence and an inquiry about that, okay? And we need to roll, the real point of this is to rely on the staff and their leadership and their experience to present a recommendation to us. We're not the experts. We all have opinions and we have feelings about this, but we aren't the ones who can tell you that as to what we need or not. We don't know usage numbers and those kind of things. So we're gonna ask them at this point to quit talking and let's see some action in terms of numbers so that we have tangible things that we can work with. In terms of, this is the same approach that we've used any project in the community in the past. We've asked for the budget numbers, we've asked for the projected costs. We did this with the clerks in terms of the public safety department. We did this with the security camera upgrades and the things that we've done. So that we know going forward what it's gonna cost, how we're gonna use them, and those kind of things. I think it's important for our community to know that we've done that before we commit ourselves to any line of action. You know, the tennis court construction is a discrete, if you will, item that needs to be awarded, and it can be stand on its own, or we can dovetail from there because it's in its own geographic area once the decision was made not to move it. And I think Bob is of the opinion, and I share it with him, that if we're going to keep moving this project forward, let's try to do all the work in consecutive order so that we don't duplicate costs, we minimize the disruption, and we get the best result that we can out of it. So.
Okay, well, thanks, Bruce, for your hard work. One thing I talked to Mark about was having a dock boy to monitor the docks. I know the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club, I guess, uses 14 dock boys that essentially are minimum wage. They do receive tips. In fact, many of them get some pretty good tips. They help boats coming in, the people that are struggling. They help handicapped people. And essentially, they're minimum wage. So they'd have a nice shirt. They would be our ambassadors to the boaters. First person you would see probably going off a boat or coming on a boat would be maybe a dock boy. Someone to handle some of the, and also to eliminate the waste from the animals that, primarily geese, I think. It gets bad at times.
That goes exactly to my whole point, which is if we're gonna have a park director, if we wanna engage the services of a park director, duties and responsibilities, how the harbor's gonna be run, how many people should staff it, what they're gonna do, am I gonna be are we gonna provide valet service in terms of that area, and those kind of things. That's where we need to ask Mark and the other people, the other staff members, to tell us, here's what we have a standard of excellence that we expect as the council. We have a level of service that our community is going to expect from us. It's our job to, if you will, give them that level of service at the best possible cost and efficiency. Part of what we've tried to do there is engage and hire the best administrative people that we can for our role. Let's let them come back to us and tell us how they want to achieve those goals. And I think I think the reaction we had yesterday was ready to go. Let's do this. Let's get this done and have it that way.
But I think we also have to take into consideration what the residents want. I mean, no disrespect to our employees, but none of them live in the shores. So they're doing this as a workplace thought, but we have residents who are calling us and stopping us and telling us what they want.
Tina, I would respectfully disagree with you on that. They work with the community every day. Their job is public relations and public service. There's no one who has more contact with the public than the chief or Mark. They listen to the residents more than we do. So they are gonna get that input from them. But the whole point is that they make their recommendation, then it comes to us. And then you sit here, I sit here, and we sit as a group, we've gotten the input from the residents to us, then we are the ones that are going to, if you will, tweak it, mesh it, do that, and provide that feedback back to the plan that we have in place. We need to have the plan in place that we can work with. Not just, we want a gatehouse, but how are we gonna do that? And then we can sit there and you say, well, a lot of people I've spoken with don't feel good about these security camera aspects or something. Okay. Then we talk about that, and then we come forward and we make decisions based on that. But they're going to be they're responsive to the community every moment. So it's not, they're not in a vacuum where they're going to sit there and the chief's going to go, oh boy, I get to design, a level 2 Guantanamo Bay secured, criminal entrance system, or this is gonna be like a federal courthouse, you're gonna get into the park. We're all perfectly cognizant of that, and we're gonna be as balanced as we can be to do that, we know that. But I think there's no reason they would not ever consider the public desires. You know that.
Well, thanks, Bruce. I know we've already discussed, there's a finite cost for the building of the standalone gatehouse, and we believe that one donor will pay for it. So I've reassured people that have asked me who's gonna pay for it. Park and Harbor Committee members, some other people have asked, it won't be paid by the city, it'll be paid by a private donor, so. Well, are there any other questions? Not Chief, Public Safety Report?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The last 30 days was quiet, with the exception of 2 fire-related calls that we had on, both on Labor Day, September 4th. At midnight, our apparatus responded to a detached frame garage 80 Vernier. The responding officers found the structure fully involved. They proceeded quickly to a second and third alarm, which drew the response of Grosse Pointe Farms and Grosse Pointe Woods. The fire was contained and there was only minimal damage to the exposure, so and there was no injuries as well. We have learned through our investigation that it was most likely a fireworks that was not properly extinguished. At 7 p.m. the same day, officers responded to a residence on Still Meadow with smoke in the first floor laundry room. A small fire was located behind the dryer. We think probably from some kind of a power surge. And through a quick response, the fire was extinguished quickly, and there was very minimal damage. I've been informed by Crest Ford that our new police utility vehicles are in, and I hope to pick them up next week and get working with Scott and to get them outfitted. I really have to give him proper attention. He does a magnificent job, and many of the problems that you've heard about with the Ford Explorers, with the carbon monoxide leaking back into the cabin of the car, we have not had any issues because of how clean he seals up the wire chases, etc. So he's done a great job for us, and we're very grateful to have him. It's a very expensive. Departments will spend $3,000 and $4,000 per vehicle to have those things outfitted, and he does a fantastic job. This coming Sunday, September 24th, Grosse Pointe Yacht Club is hosting their 3rd annual Run for a Reason. There will be additional parking in our park, as well as we may extend to them one of the northbound lanes of Lakeshore if necessary. It is a fundraiser for a department within the hospital, and they will be utilizing both northbound lanes of Lakeshore from Woodland Shore to Vernier from 8:30 to approximately 11. I've obtained all the necessary Wayne County permits for it, and so we're all ready to go. DPW will be assisting us on that morning.
Chief, what day did you say it was? I'm sorry.
It's this St. John Run for a Reason. It's a 5K run.
This weekend?
It's the 24th. Sunday the 24th. I submitted 2 of our officers for recognition with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. PSO paramedics Rangert and O'Brien will be attending the annual Lifesavers Award lunch on September 29th. These two officers arrested a total of 29 intoxicated motorists throughout the year, out of 77 that we have arrested in total. So we're very proud of their performance, and we rest assured that the persons who drive through our community who are intoxicated are getting locked up. So we have started our target traffic enforcement on the streets west of Lakeshore. We have recognized that speeds increase as school opens for the safety of the kids, and we've also had some citizen concerns. So we are assigning, specific traffic enforcement on the east-west streets related to Cook Road, to Moreland, etc. So I wanted to mention again that the video observation program is ongoing. I have applications with me. If residents are interested, they can register their video system with the Public Safety Department, and your video may help us. It may capture data that we need, and so we would encourage those to register with us and just let us know that they have these systems in place. My EMS instructor coordinators have made arrangements for all of our officers in the department to be issued naloxone kits, and for that drug is better known as Narcan, which is an opioid antagonist. These kits are available through a state grant, and every officer will be carrying those now on his person in his vehicle, based on the life-saving efforts that we had on Lakeshore and Vernier. Time is of the essence, and so I'm making arrangements to get them all. No level of licensure is required. You just need to be trained, and you need to have a reasonable suspicion that the person is experiencing an opioid overdose. So,
Where did you have them that time? Did you have to go to the ambulance and get them?
well, the rig was right behind me. It was right here.
But you normally carry them on the rig?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, and all ambulances do. Only recently was the statute put into place where police officers, non-medics or non-paramedics, could carry them. That's all I have for tonight. If you have any questions.
I was just gonna count, in Harper Woods, they had, what, 5 overdoses in one day? 2 deaths because of opioid in the last month or so?
They have, and a lot of communities have had staggering amounts of opioid overdoses. Not all of them fatal, but many, many of them fatal. It's
great that you got them.
There are some communities that are experiencing a tremendous amount of these. It's an epidemic. So the national attention is drawing to this issue.
What does it cost for one of those kits?
I'm not sure what the cost is of that particular drug, but they come with, it comes as a kit with gloves, and the ones that we're using are the nasal spray, and very effective. It's a bolus dose of Narcan, which is you can't administer too much, so but they're lifesavers, and the state's making them available to us.
Good, thanks, Chief.
I have
Yes.
2 questions, comments. Number 1, concerning these kits. You said that it's a grant that we're purchasing these, or how are we getting these?
The grant was submitted to the state, and they have made these available to all law enforcement in the state of Michigan.
Okay, and how much are we paying for these kits?
0.
0. Okay, so let's just say Officer A has to use one. Is he able, do we keep a stockpile here, or like some inventory, or how do you keep it?
We will have extras, and
Okay.
he administers it. He fills out a form. It goes with the run sheet that we would make for our medic billing.
Okay.
And then the officer would be issued a new kit.
Okay, so that will always be available. It's not just for the first 6 months or until we use it.
As well as if they use it off the rig, they can get it replaced at the hospital.
Okay, all right, that's it. Secondly, I know that there's been, you were asked about training a new detective to have here in our building. What is the status on that, and what type of, where are we in that training?
Well, that training was never conducted because I have a lieutenant who is trained, he's my primary investigator. I have 2 public safety officers who are also trained detectives and evidence technicians. So we're more than staffed for backup. And when the lieutenant goes on vacation in the detective bureau, these 2, one on one side, one on the other side of my platoons, they fill in for him, they check all the casework, so they're both trained detectives. We have 3 trained detectives.
Okay, but the 2 that are trained are not lieutenants?
No, they're
Correct?
public safety officers, correct.
Okay.
Oh, Chief, I just have one question. One of my neighbors asked, instead of getting tickets for parking, could we get warnings? The residents get warnings instead of a ticket? So I don't know, Mark, I don't know,
Are you referring to the overnight parking?
well, either overnight, somebody on my street apparently got a ticket 2 months ago, and it was one of the relatives' cars, and so I heard
Well, we
from,
try and get the word out. We have notices on our website. It's in the newsletter. It's in the shoreline. If you have relatives visiting, if you have any kind of a hardship, you're putting in a driveway, we ask that you call us.
okay.
If you are from out of town and
Well, it's a tough situation. I mean, and
it is
it was a
because
car
it's
that,
a true benefit
Right.
to the officers.
Sure.
Yes, there are exceptions where we don't get the word or it doesn't get transferred to the sheet, and those, of course, we would
Okay. Okay, thanks, Chief. Public Works, I know Brett's not here,
Yeah,
Mark.
Brett's is up at the program at Central Michigan, and he's actually an instructor in it for other public works superintendents and members from their department. One of these was mentioned before. The paving was done under this year's program, and as the Finance Committee Chair indicated, we think it's gone well. We've ridden it. I guess the only comment we heard was someone didn't like the color because it looks new compared to the rest of it. Well, concrete will, when you replace your sidewalk, you got the same issue. Give it a year, but we're not gonna throw dirt on it to dirty it out. But we think it rides well, and I think all members of the Finance Committee had actually driven it as well. It's a really good program. It allows us to extend our dollars further, and we've got a list that we'll be working with Brett on for this year's construction on that. Second, and this was also mentioned earlier, under the Public Works report, we have been in discussion with Wayne County and a couple of issues. The Southeast Macomb Sanitary District is going to be taking over some of the operations, including Milk River, potentially the two basins and things like that. And we have continued to work with neighboring communities and asking for an additional 1 CFS. We currently have 3 CFS, but based on all the numbers, Jesse is here to answer any questions from HRC if there are any. But we're really proceeding, and it is eligible for reimbursement under our SAW grant. We're going to be spending about $58,300 in a couple of phases to break the city up into several sections to look for where we might be draining light, because right now, 1/3 of our capacity is going in on dry weather flow that we're paying for. So we'd rather find and fix the system, and it takes some research to do that. Some additional telemetry equipment, and eventually we'll be required to put it through a SCADA system and upgrade our pump system. We've upgraded the pumps, but we haven't electronically fixed them to come on and go off at the right time.
Art, could you back up and, I mean, for the audience and for everybody, you're talking about the specifics, about what the general point of this whole discussion with him is, or you want me to, it's.
Yeah, basically.
So people are lost, they're going, you're talking about 3.0 cubic feet per second and versus 4.0, everybody's going, I can see their eyes are going,
1/3, it looks like on dry weather flows.
No, you gotta go further back.
Okay.
Okay, day 1, part 1, which is, who's talking about how much water is flowing through our sanitary sewer system, and we're exceeding what Wayne County is telling us we're allowed to do. We gotta figure out where it's coming from. And that's about it.
And simply, we of course pay through the Great Lakes Water Authority and Wayne County and various other agencies to treat that. And if we can get it out of the system by fixing certain things, that's to our advantage to do and keep a handle on rates. So in essence, Jesse can answer, or I can answer any questions. We're asking council to approve our proceeding, and you have both their original proposal of all 5 phases, but we're only going to proceed as we need to with phase 1 and 2 at this point, and the handout that we put up on the screen. And this generated, again, a lot of discussion at the Finance Committee meeting. We're asking for approval to proceed with the first 2 phases at this point. And happy to answer any questions, or Jesse can too.
Jesse, you want to take the podium?
But he only gets 3 minutes.
Maybe in a layman's language, explain this, because as I understand it, one of the solutions to remediate this is to have storage. Is that right?
That is the ultimate, absolute last potential solution.
He said at the Finance Committee meeting that he could guarantee that he could balance the system, and we wouldn't need storage.
That's right.
And that's on, and we put that on tape.
Okay.
It's in the minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jesse Vanderkreek, of course, with HRC. To answer your question, Mayor, certainly in the 5-phased approach that we laid out, we wanted to educate the leaders of the city, not only with the history of what's been occurring, what we found out to date, but what the potential solutions may be. And the very last solution that we had was actually physical tankage, meaning essentially construction of a wide spot in the line that would potentially allow us to mitigate these excess flows that we are seeing, to stay under the maximum that we're allowed to discharge to the Grosse Pointe Interceptor. The current system, as you very well may know, all drains to Lakeshore, to the Lakeshore Interceptor. It gets to a diameter of 42 inches by the time it reaches the Cook Road Pump Station. From the Cook Road Pump Station, there's a gravity force main for a couple of 100 feet that pumps to the first gravity manhole, and then it travels all the way to Cook Road and Chalfont, where it dumps into the Grosse Pointe Interceptor. So if you're familiar with that intersection, the schools, the churches, what we've done is we've had a meter in that location, working at the request of Wayne County to look into this issue, because their numbers were showing that essentially, and not just Grosse Pointe Shores, but the other communities have had troubles maintaining their maximum discharge to that interceptor. Well, over the last year, basically, what Mark and Bruce kind of summarized was that we found not only that we are exceeding, obviously during rain events, that's what causes the exceedance. We put together a graph that actually shows rainfall on the top and what happens to the flow in the system. And every time we get a decent amount of rain, sure enough, our discharge from the Cook Road Pump Station and into the GPI pops up to sometimes double what we're supposed to. So it's supposed to be at 3. It's not unusual for us to see during long duration type events like the one we've had today. If we get an inch on top of that, we might see that flow double and go up to like 6. So we all know that that's not acceptable. As Mark mentioned, the system's going through a transfer right now from Wayne County to SEMSD. SEMSD is aware of all of these items. So the approach that we've taken, again, tankage is the last resort, and that we want to do everything that we can to cost effectively remove excess infiltration and inflow that's in the system now. The most, I think, interesting, obviously we validated the fact that yes, we're exceeding our town outlet capacity. We can't argue that we're not. But the most interesting thing that we found was that our flow pattern looks, when you get up in the morning and you shower and everybody's getting ready for work and school, the sewage flows go up. And then in the middle of the day they go down, and they come back again at night when everybody comes home and makes dinner and takes showers and their daily activities. And that's pretty common. But what we found was over the year, we had this constant 1 CFS that was coming in undocumented, unaccounted for. It's just dry weather flow. So in our firm's 102-year history, we're experts in CSO. The first thing we see when we see this is we're under the influence of groundwater here. The lake's high. It's 2.5 feet higher than its historical averages. That hydrostatic pressure is likely bearing down on all of the antiquated collection system that was built really to service the entire community as it developed. About 20 years ago, the city invested to separate and build all new storm sewers. And what that did, of course, was took the lake out of the system, or took the storm water out of the system, gave us that capacity back. And we discharge our storm water to the lake now instead of paying for it to be treated and transported to the GLWA, or it used to be DWSD. However, 20 years ago, what we ended up with was we still have an aging collection system, again, that was built late 1800s, early 1900s, all the way through the 50s and 60s. But most of your infrastructure is aging, it's old. So this effort is really a two-pronged effort. You've already authorized under the SAW grant a complete televising operation of the entire city. So while that's underway, we'd like to meter the 4 districts as well. When we get the results of both together, we should be able to identify the source and go after and predict the construction cost that it would take to go in and remove those extraneous sources of infiltration and inflow. We expect a fair amount of it to be just simply open joints, Pipes of this age, typically they're clay pipe, and normally they're 4-foot line lengths, which you probably all know gives us a whole lot of joints. And back then, when they built these sewers, they didn't have gaskets. So every one of those joints basically becomes a French drain. When groundwater builds up, more head over the top of it. It also becomes a point for our beautiful, wonderful urban forests that we live in to find a place to drink. So the system becomes filled with roots. Its ability to transport gets worse. But the roots spread those joints open, and we tend to see more and more infiltration and inflow. So if we had these meters in, for example, for the last 20 years, my guess is you probably had a much lower I&I dry weather inflow component. But over time, aging sewers, higher lake levels, we're seeing that rise, and that's a bad thing. It's a bad thing for us because, again, it's a wasteful situation where we're paying to transport and treat groundwater or rainwater. We don't want to do that. But in order to comprehensively and systematically spend the money in the appropriate places, the map that is in your packet on the proposal shows how we're proposing to break down the community into 4 distinct areas to be able to identify if we have one area that's worse than another, so we spend our dollars where they're most, where we get the most benefit. And all of this work really would be done. The meter installation, we're proposing to have them in as fast as possible and be out by November. We'd like to get them in like 3 months, and we can have the technical report completed within 6 months. As far as the Cook Road pump station element, there are the first 2 of the 5-pronged approach. The Cook Road pump station evaluation will help us look at how we can manage these flows. Because right now, when the flow comes into the Lakeshore Interceptor, we got 2 pumps that just turn on and they go. That's it. What we really like to do is investigate modern metering and telemetry to be able to meter at our discharge at Cook Road, send a signal back to the pump station at the Cook Road pump station to tell us how much we can discharge while maximizing our storage in the 42-inch pipe that we just cleaned out. Right now, the flow comes down, it just gets pumped out. And we're not really managing it with any SCADA system. And I can tell you in earnest, every other community that's in this district does use enhanced SCADA capabilities, supervisory controls, if you will, to monitor what's happening in the system, maximize the storage in the Lakeshore Interceptor, minimize the amount that we're pumping out. But the best thing we can do is get rid of extraneous infiltration inflow altogether. Because not only does it save you money in the long run, meets your agreement that you have with the county, but protects the community from the potential of flooding. Because this extraneous infiltration and inflow is exactly the source and cause of the flooding that we've seen in the region recently. So it's a very, very good program, and I believe that the village would be well served by beginning it before we get into a position where in a defensive manner, perhaps, with these districts.
Right. The other thing to add is basically, this is in keeping with really the philosophy of the Finance Committee, dealing with these things as they come up, looking at them in advance, looking at the cost-benefit of improvements to the system, so we're not paying Detroit for treating basic rainwater and stuff. And it helps our neighbors. Council will later receive, Brian's gotten a draft of it, a new agreement because a new agency, just like the Great Lakes Water Authority took over from DWSD, this new agency will be taking over and assigning the contracts, of which we have one. And we're closely, and this, again, a lot of discussion of this in terms of details at the Finance Committee to make sure that there's no retroactivity in terms of costs in the past. Any phase-in would be tied to our improvements of the system, and we've had a meeting with their attorney that's involved with this. And again, there's a couple things I don't like, but we think that there is substantial savings on the part of SEMSD of operating the system that Wayne County currently operates from a long distance. And so when anything happens at the pump station up on Martyr, right next to the Woods Public Works facilities, they gotta send someone from downriver to physically come and handle things that they can't do remotely, so. That'll become in the future. The concept here, as we explained, is to basically have council approve and authorize us to proceed with the first 2 phases of this project.
Okay. Jesse, one question. Is the excess flow related to building activity as we have more impervious surface area? Like even in our city and around us, you know, because of the French drain effect of the lack of gaskets or holding power, essentially, and I'm not sure of our elevation compared to our neighbors, but are we essentially a sponge here? And again, we've had some building activities, but then there's been substantial building activity around us.
A couple questions there. As far as elevation, we're the highest. We're high up here. That's part of the reason that we're not on Farms water system, I think. You'd have to build an elevated storage tank to do that. So we're fighting pressure and grade. So that's not the issue. It's not elevation. Anytime we build an increase in pervious area, of course, you're going to increase the amount of runoff.
That's good.
Pardon me?
Runoff is good, because it goes into the storm sewer.
Exactly. Well, that's where I was going with this. But you separated your system 20 years ago, so as long as the new construction and the building code has been followed and mechanically tagged through the process properly, any new home should not contribute excessive infiltration and inflow during what we're seeing during wet weather events. So no, I don't believe new construction or the additional of impervious area is a factor in this specific case. This specific case is really the original collection system that was built to provide sanitary engineering service for this community. And again, it's approaching 100 years old. I can report that DPW has been very proactive in rear yards, because we know we had problems historically in rear yards. And that makes sense. When you have a sewer through a rear yard, it's typically on that property line. There's a fence over it. There's heavy landscaping. 80-foot oak trees with 60-foot spreads, all those roots have filled those over the years. So DPW has already relined rear yard sanitary collection sewers. But with the two-pronged approach of now televising all of the sewers, which has been approved, in addition to this flow monitoring, we are truly going to be able to pinpoint where these are coming from and develop a game plan and a cost at what it takes to cost effectively remove this. Because we might have some areas that just aren't cost effective to remove. Sometimes that's the case, but we don't know that. We don't know where they're at yet. And that's exactly what this study would do for us.
And we can borrow the money from the SAW grant program to mitigate.
Yep.
We have the resource available to borrow from the state of Michigan, I think at what, 2%? If we want, but we think we can beat their credit rate.
Yeah.
Now, we paid off the bond a couple years ago for the sewer separation. We haven't borrowed any money since then in anticipation of the fact that we knew 2 and 3 years ago going forward that we were going to be spending some money, we don't know how much, to do this sewer, if you will, restoration and rehabilitation throughout the village. And that could be well over $1 million, but you would finance it over, 20, 30 years.
And that would be assigned to the water and sewer fund then, right?
Yes.
Right, yeah, but we would bond for that too, that would be a voter approved millage.
Okay.
So it's gonna go on their tax bills, but it's part of the 5-year plan that we put in place to do that.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming, Jesse. Do we need a motion then? And again, to approve, this is phase 1 and phase 2?
So moved.
Is there support? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Well, thank you, Jesse, for coming.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate it.
I think we need you, though, for the tennis court discussion, too. So,
Wrong engine.
oh, yeah, I'm sorry, okay. Park and Harbor, Bob?
Okay, I do have,
You got Brett's hat on yet? Ben?
Yes.
Okay. Right on the corner here, we talked, there's a big hole.
Yep,
Let Brett
that'll
know.
be taken care of.
And then the one, Chuck talked about on Cook and Valentine. Yeah,
gonna be the saw cut job.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
And then, do you know when the vault, you probably don't know when the vault's gonna be put in?
We've had trouble getting a hold of the contractor. The vault finally approved several weeks ago. It was constructed. We're now waiting for his timetable to put it in. I don't have that yet, but actually, the same contractor's doing a couple of projects north of us in St. Clair Shores. And so Brett and Brian Babcock, their DPW director, riding herd on the contractor, so we'll be having him. We should have an update. Jesse's guy let us know, so.
What is this vault?
The vault is to finish the water project, the water line project for the Fort House.
It's in front of Mr. Kurtz's yard, and he's having,
Yeah, there'll
he's
be
very upset about not having it completed
Okay,
because of the pipe sticking up in his front yard.
okay.
And Mark, I've already talked to Brett about that wall, the brick wall in front of the school bell, the Vernier school bell, so.
That's already in the budget for this year.
Okay.
We fix it about every 5 or 6 years. Each time they've done something, they put in, there's
Drainage.
drains in it, there's a bunch of other stuff.
Okay.
But he had planned to fix it. We talked about that. Actually, I don't think we even brought it to the finance committee because we put the money in the budget to take care of it.
Okay, all right, thanks.
The last time we fixed it was $4 or $5 grand, so.
Okay.
So do we have a date that's going to be fixed? Do we know? Is it going to be this year? Spring?
Yes. We're not gonna fix it before winter. Let it get settle more and then we'll fix it again.
Okay.
Okay. Bob, Park and Harbor?
That's also people hitting it too. I go there around. I have 3 items. One, basically at Park and Harbor. We had a Park and Harbor meeting yesterday, and Tom, the harbor masters, did extensive survey of the well rates for the Grosse Pointe communities and around. And we had a decision yesterday that we'd like to do a 3% raise for the next 5 years through 2022 with an annual review. We feel that's justified in keeping with the surrounding communities. We're not out of line with anybody else, and to include some private wells, so we're pretty much in line. So we think 3% is reasonable. Annual review, if the economy turns down, we can make the adjustments and make the recommendations. So I'd like to make a motion that we would do well rates for 3% for the next 5 years, and that would end for year 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Okay. This one's gonna take a few minutes longer. On August 29th, Mark Wilhelm, Brett Smith, Brian Renault, and I made a trip to the city of Grosse Pointe Farms. There we joined up with them, along with the Corps of Engineers, who had assembled a team, and basically it has to do with the seawall. As you know, the seawall in spots is in pretty bad shape. The Corps of Engineers put together some people from the Corps, Michigan Office of Great Lakes, EPA, Southeast Michigan Government Council, St. Clair Health, and the Department of Natural Resources, and a few other people that I can't remember all their names. We made a trip from here all the way up to Port Huron, made a stop in the farms by St. Paul's Church where there's erosion there, and also one spot in ours in Grosse Pointe Shores, the erosion that they could see. And then on a Pat's bus, we took a trip up to, I think it was Marine City, I can't remember the name of the little city we stopped at.
Marine City.
In Marine City?
Right outside of it, it was a township.
Green
Yeah, little
City and
township.
Cottrell Township.
Cottrell.
Anyhow, where they did some study and redid the shoreline there. It's a little different. It's in the river part of the base. And because of the high water levels, we couldn't see everything. And when we went up to Port Huron and a couple places up there, the same thing where they did the studies and made the completions. A lot of it was underwater because of the high water rates, the high water levels. So anyhow, that was a 7-hour day from here to back down to here. And so from that in the discussion on the way back, It was determined that a letter had to be written, and both the Shores and the farms that did that letter to the Corps to start the process. It could take up to 5 years to get some federal funding, okay? Before any work could be done, there has to be an ecosystem study done. We talked about the fish, the wildlife, everything.
Sinkhole?
They were very thoughtful that we could get money from the federal government in about 5 years, maybe. They figured the ecosystem study would take about anywhere from a year to a year and a half. They're very thorough. These people are really very intelligent people from all walks of life. In 5 years, maybe we get 65% of the funding from the federal government, and some other stuff would have to happen at our level, both the county and the 2 municipalities. Repairs could be anywhere from $1,000 a foot to $5,000 a foot, depending on what their study comes up with. And so, just let everybody know that we're not just, we're looking at the seawall. It's in bad shape. With the high water level, it's deteriorating even quicker than it was before. So, I'm hoping we can get something fixed. And the letter's gone off to Wayne County to fix a couple spots that really need attention.
Yep.
What's really unsafe, probably should be able to take off. Not only the Shores, but also the farms. Talk about the money cost per foot. Farm says about a mile, we have 2 miles. So, about shoreline. So
And
that's
it's
on
all
our-
in county road right-of-way.
Yeah.
So we made sure, we invited them to participate. Sadly, there's a person from Macomb County, because he's had some experience with a similar grant program. There are other programs that funds can be combined from to participate, and as Bob said, we get the first 100,000 of the design free, and then we'd have to split costs above that, 65% federal, 35% local, but we certainly made it clear this is a Wayne County road, there might be some participation, but sadly, the one person assigned to this was on vacation, so. But we brought him material back for him, as well as can share with the council. But it's very interesting as to what they've done in the shoreline. Not all hard surface, but some hard surface, some natural refurbishment, so.
It was a worthwhile trip.
Yeah.
I think it was, 7 hours well spent. And I didn't realize how many people have to get involved just to do something like that. But,
Well, the other thing that's interesting, when the feds do something, the study and their original, this is the best response we've ever had from the Corps of Engineers in the last 5 years. And they were serious with the people that they brought, and they're moving this to make sure with our letter, this is a high priority for them to get on the funding list. And so the study could begin pretty quickly, but ultimately with a final solution and stuff and how we package other grants into this could take, I hate to say, I hope I'm not dead by then, but with the way the feds operate, you never know, so.
Mark, if there's a clear and present danger, like of a sinkhole within that 5-year period, would that would we be able to somehow expedite the process?
I think they were they were concerned, and plenty of opportunities were there for the interagency talk between the EPA, the Corps of Engineers, the Michigan Office of the Great Lakes and stuff. So yeah, I think that this is again, the fastest response I've seen. And we even got a reminder, please give me that letter because I want to push this in quickly. So that did occur. And we kept the Wayne County people informed as well. And I'm sorry they couldn't join us.
We would never do any repairs on it though, would we? Because you touch it, you buy it.
That's exactly right.
You touch it, they're gonna go, well, you've accepted responsibility.
Does that extend to the seawall in the park? Because I know the Improvement Foundation suggested it as a project. that a seawall going to Ralph Wilson's property.
Well, that's a different issue, but certainly, we can talk to the experts there about that, but as you know, we have an agreement, a longstanding agreement with the yacht club. And that's, Bruce's comment on it is absolutely perfect in that case too. We touch something on that, we may have bought or eliminated, they have a responsibility under existing agreement.
For the
that whole
east,
north
yeah.
wall.
Mhm.
So, that's not something we want to touch, nor would we allow someone to do that without permits or anything.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Mark.
In a couple of problem areas that Brett has had deals with the Wayne County, he has taped it off. The only thing he's done is taped it off for.
Right.
Yeah, and they'll come out and they'll fill things in.
Some of the things that
temporary
you did.
repairs.
Yeah, I mean, you see where, you walk down there, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's so much erosion underneath there, and it's just compounding, and the concrete's collapsed. And you might find Jimmy Hoff under there or something. I mean, there's some
Well, I know one spot we went back to, just in 3 months, we saw where some of the concrete slabs had just been undermined and fallen in.
And with the high water level, that
Makes it even worse. Okay. One last little thing, at the mayor's request, I went to the Michigan Municipal League in Holland, Michigan, to look at, how best cities to improve, and sit and listen to everybody. Come out of there with 2 things. Number one, they talk about, fixing your roads, keeping your lighting. Your municipality, everything up to snuff, all electrical, and a generator and everything else. And I says, well, we're pretty much all we're there. It was a good trip. Listen to some of the municipalities talk. I really appreciate the people that work here and the time they put in, because there's some cities that they're really in deep trouble. They're spending money they don't have. They spent, one person built the building without getting city approval, without getting approval. They raised, what they did, one city did $1.5 million raise above the Headley amendment. I think that was a Headley?
Headland proposal,
They rescinded it, but I mean, they did it with.
Well, they hadn't at least collected it, oh my God.
Anyhow, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. It was a good trip, by the way.
Oh, Tina?
I have a couple of things. Number one, we're talking about the Park and Harbor well increases. What was the occupancy of our wells this past year?
There was 9 open wells.
Okay. What are we gonna do about the on-time payments? If somebody has not paid by, I believe it's February 15th, are we going to rescind their well or put it up for bid?
I mean, in a couple cases, we make a number of efforts to contact them timely, and that was actually, I don't know if you raised it, but it came up at the last Park Harbor about, hey, you're gonna lose your well, and we're serious about it if that's the case. Now, will we call them, give them an extra week or something? Sure, but, if there are people who want those wells, they can bump too.
Okay,
Sounds pretty good about staying on top of that.
okay. That we had 9 open wells. What sizes were those? Do you know? Were they the smaller or the bigger ones?
25.
Yeah, I'll
25.
get you a list of the.
No, I don't need, just kind of,
I
just an
don't know
idea.
off the top of my head.
Okay. How did the concession stand do this year?
I was going to ask that quick. No, didn't do very well.
Fine
Did it-
in terms of that, but basically, it's a loss leader.
Okay.
I think with the arrangement we have with,
Full circle?
Full circle?
Full Circle, it works fine, but it's a subsidy. Did they cover their costs? Did they do a nice job? Yes. Did they respond to any of the special events that we have? Just like for the Eclipse Day, they were there serving, and they cover their costs, but Rhonda, there's a little bit left over, but nothing
Yeah,
super.
but remember, the intention is that if we broke even or we had to subsidize it up to
Right.
$3,000 or $4,000,
Yeah.
we were
Well worth it.
we were glad to do that simply because we got the grant money from the CDBG.
Yep.
And that Full Circle, and there was just an amenity to the community.
Well, I wanted to point out that I actually know someone whose daughter works there, and she made an event for me to tell me what this has meant for her daughter, to be able to work in this environment, to talk with the residents, to feel good about herself. And it's been a godsend for their family. And I just want to make sure that we all understand that this is a very important part of our community.
It's
that
working
we-
really well in
Okay.
terms of that. Rhonda gives them a little advance.
Okay.
They go shopping. We get all of our stuff at cost from National Coney Island in terms of the the specifics of those.
Sure.
But they buy some other things. And actually, this brings up a good point. The mayor had asked some time ago, someone was willing to donate a slushy or Slurpee machine to us. And I talked to them about it, and they're willing to accept it. And I think the issue, when it came up before, it was our first year of operation with National Coney Island, and they didn't want something in there that they didn't provide and could service. But the Full Circle people are very cooperative, very helpful, so.
Very
One
Good.
because we had here last year, where we presented some stuff, they were, you could see the smiles on their face.
They love it.
You know what, we should, I'll make a point, let's invite them back to thank them for the summer work.
Didn't you give them a medal last year, too,
Yes,
didn't you?
and they
Yeah, well,
just
we
thought it
gave
was
them-
all that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah, that's good to
wonderful.
Do that
Yeah,
again.
when you were to give it out.
It's so wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. What was our park attendance this year?
I didn't ask
I don't remember, but we'll,
Okay,
yeah, we'll get
I'd
the
like to
numbers.
know.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Tina.
Yep.
Okay, Brian, legal
No,
report?
you know what, I need to talk. Is this my spot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, my part of the Blue Ribbon Committee basically has just been dissolved. I wanted to thank the members of the Blue Ribbon Committee for their effort, and their diligence in working. Although our recommendations weren't approved, we still had a great group of people working together. Now I'm going to segue over to my Grosse Pointe Improvement Foundation liaison work. I attended their meeting last Monday evening. It was a lengthy meeting because there was a lot of talk about projects. They're very interested in doing projects. And given that, I would like to have Brett Marshall, the president of the Grosse Pointe Improvement Foundation, talk more about that in detail if that could at this time. So Brett? At this time.
Okay.
Condense 3 hours of discussion in 3 minutes for you, but I'll do my best. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, the Improvement Foundation would like to tackle 3 or 4 projects. One being a splash pad. The grime, the slime, the algae, whatever that's called. We got complaints from Kate Drake numerous times. So we've identified some hot spots there, some low spots, some leaky valves that need to be repaired. They need to be ground down and the paint resealed. We have some preliminary numbers, if you'd like to hear those, roughly $8,000 for us to handle that. The baby pool, we had complaints about that from K. Drake also. We are offering to put a liner in the pool for you, stop the DPW from having to paint it, wash it, maintain it. That cost to the foundation is $16,000 with a 20-year warranty. The seascapes, we've talked about those numerous times. We have 4 bids here that just came in this afternoon. We're talking roughly $7,000 to $10,000 a year annually to maintain those 6 or 7 seascapes, we call them.
For seascaper,
For all of them,
10,000 for all.
correct, on an annual basis. How that's split up, or if it is split up, or it's all our issue, I guess is to be
That's-
determined yet.
Does that include cleaning them up now? And
Correct.
because there's some irrigation systems that have to be fixed, and that would be Bill's responsibility.
That's probably part of the bid yet, but we have not seen all the bids yet, so I can't really comment on the irrigation. We're after the flowers, it's not part of it?
But that has to be fixed.
Yeah, but that's not a big deal, we can do that.
That's not a big issue. DPW perhaps, who knows?
Well, I'm just saying, you gotta keep that in mind.
But we're not gonna destroy anything at all, we're gonna try and maintain it, of course. Another issue is the Vernier School Bell, the wall that Ted just talked about. We're offering to fix that for you for the tune of $6,500. That can be done in the next week or so.
We just said we're gonna do it this spring.
We're offering to do it now, but it's up to you guys.
Well,
But the bottom line here, excuse me, Mark, is the foundation wants to give the city $100,000, up to $100,000 to work in these projects. The remainder of the money would go towards enhancing the tennis courts. We know that's a big issue. Landscaping, benches, whatever else we can add to that, we'll do down the road. The problem here is that we cannot legally sign a binding contract being the foundation, so we need the city to do that. So if the city would sign the contract, we're more than willing to pay the tab to get these projects handled in a quick fashion. In fact, we're ready to start tomorrow on the splash pad itself, if that's something that the council allows us to do. That's kind of where we're at,
Have you talked to Brett Smith about the splash pad?
numerous times.
I mean, he knows what the game, he's in sync with your game plan?
He is. K. Drake is in favor of it, so we need to get moving on some of this stuff. But, well,
You're looking at me, I know what's.
What are they going to do?
they're gonna take a cement grinder and grind down the high spots, which is holding the water back.
Okay.
We call them bird baths, little 1/16 of an inch or 1/8 of an
Yeah,
inch
it's
of
minor.
water to create this algae problem, whatever this black stuff is. Grind the high spots down, we'll work on that, add water, see if they drain out. Grind again, drain more water out until they completely drain dry. At that point, we'll get the whole thing repainted or recoated, whatever we need to do with that also. We talked to Cush Paint. They have the proper paint for us to use. We have two contractors willing to do that for us already. And that's roughly the tune of $8,000 to get the splash pad fixed.
You said there were valves or something?
Pardon me?
You had the comment there were valves.
That
Sure.
wouldn't include the valves, right? Because I
That
think
will
there's still a
include the valves.
5-year warranty. Well, I thought, I was at that meeting too, and Connie
The warranty
Hewitt.
is very specific. It only, the 5-year warranty applies to hard plastic or aluminum pieces, of course, not the functional electrical pieces. Those only covered for 2 years. If you read that contract very well, they're out of the loop on that one. So we're
It's
stuck.
only 3 years old, right?
Correct. So some of the hard pieces, the plastic pieces, the hard aluminum pieces, the steel pieces, there's no warranty there. They're not gonna wear out. But the things that are wore out, the contract already expired on them.
That's the company that wouldn't call you back though, right?
Vortex, yeah, out of Canada. Very difficult to work with. So in essence, we're offering to give you the money, we're doing the legwork, we're making the arrangements, but all we wanna do is just ask your permission to continue on, and let us finish these few projects.
Well, Mark, what would you like to
Well,
say?
certainly, anything that they're willing to do is of value and assistance. We do have to make sure, I wouldn't be comfortable, agreeing to everything without knowing all of the details. He is correct, that Brett is correct that Brett Smith has looked and talked to Cush Payne about it. I need to know who the contractors are for each of these things. Do they meet our bid requirements, and stuff? That's easy to work out. The issue in the past has been, we're appreciative of anything they do. I wish that this had been coordinated, better between staff, so we could say tonight, yeah, we're on board because we know who their contractors are, or we know what we're gonna do versus those people. That hasn't occurred, but that can occur pretty quickly. So I say, yeah, we'll work with them to get these things going, and see, anything that they do saves us money if it's something we've already budgeted, and we appreciate the legwork that they've done. And as you know, this gentleman, as president, has been extremely valuable for us to work with on so many projects. So if he says they're good, I trust him. I just need to know the details to make sure we meet our
So-
various bid requirements and stuff.
Do you want us to accept your gift?
Basically, yes.
Thank you.
We'll take it.
I can say
We'll take it.
Why don't we make a motion that says, we respectfully and graciously accept
Absolutely.
the money of the Improvement Foundation for the enumerated projects, subject to the coordination, the expeditious
Okay?
Yeah.
coordination
Workman's comp, proof of insurance, that type of thing.
of the city's administrative staff with your, would it be you, yourself, or the
Contractors.
with the contractors that the Improvement Foundation has previously contacted?
They have to be the contractors.
Yeah.
So moved.
Brett, was that, okay, I'm sorry, was that Madison Maintenance for the brick wall?
Correct.
Okay. And they gave you a fixed quote or fixed?
$6,500, proof of insurance, the whole bit.
Yeah, those are just things we just have to look through.
So you enumerated 4 projects, or 4
Correct.
What
projects.
about the baby pool, with B&B pools?
That's a big one for us. I mean, are you willing to let us purchase this pool liner.
We're not letting them purchase any, we're gonna buy this stuff. The point is, we're gonna accept their gift.
Correct.
Accept the recommendation subject to our staff concurring with that, and we're gonna make them do it in a expeditious and timely manner.
Thank you.
Well, I think from the meeting, here's the situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brett. This gift comes with stipulations, and that is only to be used for the projects that they've outlined.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
Secondly, they want this done now, and that's why they're giving us the money. They're tired of seeing the park and, we were talking about the, well,
You said
no.
expeditious.
But you were saying we're taking your money and we'll agree to
you're-
this,
You
so.
wanna paint a splash pad in the fall.
No, I don't think they wanna do it in the fall. Don't you wanna do that right
We
now?
want to grind it down and hopefully get the valves
This is
fixed
the
now.
fall, isn't it?
And
You don't paint, wet structures in the spring, in the fall, you paint them in the spring.
well, again, if the weather permits us and we get that far, they kind
See,
of.
they wanna do it now.
If you have a guarantee on the paint over the winter, would you do that?
Oh, again, if it's 85 degrees next week, we can get this done.
You can put the paint down, but then you're gonna say to yourself, let's just watch the weather all winter.
I guess that's up for debate, Bruce, but the contractor feels very strong he can get it done, and he'll warranty his paint and the workmanship.
And the warranty adhesion.
Absolutely, Cush Paint and the contractors that will put it down. That's why we're excited to get this far so fast.
Okay, okay. And are you gonna install the baby liner, the pool liner too?
That I don't know, the B&B has not got us back to us on a timeline on
Like you
that.
said, if they, work that out and coordinate it.
I would
with the city,
say-
that's fine. If it falls apart, that's not really.
No. I mean, I agree that it's gotta be expeditious and timely. And I expect, but it has to be, at the same time, we have to have some input as the city does, the village has to, whether we think it's good or not, okay?
fair enough.
We just commented that we can repair the wall, sure, you can do that. Well, the reason they wanted to wait till the springtime was because of freeze and thaw cycles.
Exactly.
Madison maintenance doesn't guarantee freeze and thaw, we know that. It's a brick wall, it moves.
It's ready to fall over, Bruce, it's almost a hazard.
It's because it's been whacked. I mean, but again, if I'm not the one who's going to make that, if staff says you're good to do it now, and these guys want to pay for it right now, well then, let's twist your arm and say, here,
Yeah.
let me spend my money on your behalf. I don't have an issue with that. But I don't want to make it sound like, from what you're saying, I know you're frustrated, you want to get things done, and you want to have that. The only thing I would caution is that it's carefully thought out, and that the people
Understood.
that the people who we select to do it and their representations are sustainable, and we can make sure that they are supportive of that. The worst thing you get is a guy says it'll work, and then it doesn't, and you can't find them.
I understand your point.
The landscaping stuff, sure, why not? I mean, at least seascapes, you can do that. Fall's probably the best time to do it and get all that stuff cleaned out of there and get it
Exactly. We
planted.
need to get on that soon, too.
You know, so I mean,
He'll
again,
be back he's back late Friday. We sit down,
you wanna,
He is available instantaneously by phone.
you guys wanna stipulate in the motion 2 weeks? Give them 2 weeks, Tina?
2 weeks for each project or 2 weeks
No,
for
2
the?
weeks to have,
We'll have a plan.
Coordinate
brought
this.
And sent.
that if we
communication back
accept
to
their offer of these funds, we said that we would have it done in an expeditious manner, not to exceed 2 weeks for targeted implementation dates and delivery dates.
Okay.
Now, maybe the baby pool you don't do until the spring, because what's the difference? You don't care about that. If the foundation people and stuff say, we want the splash pad, we wanna do it this year, weather permitting, okay, weather permitting. If they wanna do the brick wall of the school, weather permitting. Tennis courts are not gonna do till the spring, weather, but you can specify the list of projects
Sure.
and target completion dates and have that done within,
Yep.
to the collect satisfaction within 2 weeks. Hold their feet to the fire. I mean,
We'll get a report back to council.
Great.
After we sit down. The only thing I was tell you, we pulled out a liner at the baby pool, and I wanna, our Brett, not that Brett Marshall is not our Brett too, because he works cooperatively with us, to take a look at that and see. My guess is that has to be ordered and would be put in the spring
That's B&B.
as well. And
B&B pool.
the so-called 20-year guarantee really
Right.
is about 14 years. We went through and spent $1 million in the Woods pool. but a bunch of other improvements as well as relining that. But, you know, those are all things, if they've got the information, we can review quickly, make sure that it meets our requirements. Most of these are all below the threshold of bid, how we can improve them and stuff. So I don't see any problem with exactly as you outlined in terms of the motion would be great.
Okay, motion's pending, it's been discussed. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
Great, thank you
Brad.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, you're gonna get those seascapes, right? Okay, get out there.
Get a good night's sleep. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Brian, legal report?
Okay, thank you. I'll be brief. I really will tonight. Since the date of the city council meeting held on August 15th, city attorney's been engaged in the following activities on behalf of the city. First, we continued to consult with the city regarding 570 Sheldon Road utility easement matters. We reviewed the city charter and planning commission ordinances, and we consulted with the city and prepared correspondence with the city regarding planning commission membership requirements. As Councilman Barrett pointed out, and City Manager Wollenweber, we attended the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Seawall Improvements tour, which was very interesting and eye-opening. We reviewed and responded to several FOIA requests received by the city on various questions. We also reviewed a Metro Act permit application. It's an application by Verizon to continue to install certain telecommunication improvements within the city's right-of-way. That's on the agenda under city manager's comments tonight, or I think it's new business, pardon me. We prepared a resolution with respect to that draft resolution for review by the city council tonight. We conferred with the city regarding 707 Lakeshore Road lot split matters. That's kind of an ongoing saga with respect to that property. We also attended the City Finance Committee meeting yesterday. We've been involved in continuing negotiations with PATS, SOC, Services for Older Citizens, and representatives from Smart Transit System regarding the reorganization of the operational responsibility of the bus service that services all 5 points and Harper Woods. With regard to Deeplands Drive development matter, the 2 things have occurred. One is an appeal has been filed by the developer with respect to the Zoning Board of Appeals action last month on the plat application. We devoted substantive attention to that on the one hand, and then separately, the developer submitted a new plan for review involving a different configuration of that proposed subdivision. We also devoted substantive attention to that. Our understanding is that of this past Friday, the developer is asked to have the second application held in suspense for the time being. And then finally, with respect to Michaud Court, the vacant parcel that the city has purchased, we've conducted negotiations with the title insurance company regarding its issuance of title insurance to allow the sale to proceed. The title insurance company has agreed to do that. So we're now in the process of scheduling a closing on the one hand, waiting for a title commitment that we can review on the other.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Any questions from council? Okay, if not, Mark, your report?
Sure. WCA, who's our contract assessor, has pretty much completed the BSNA program digital sketches. We are pretty close to being in total compliance. Did we actually pay for the first set of those yet? Or did we do it the... Okay, I've signed it today, okay. That brings us pretty much into full compliance with all the state requirements. As you know, this has been a project from changing assessors to having some staff people do it, to including Rhonda. But in each case, we've upgraded, and we're pretty much in full compliance with the state now. I attended today a presentation with other managers, the staff of the school district and Rocket Fiber, and next week I will not be able to attend because I'll be at the planners recertification program for Michigan Association of Planners, but the mayor, I hope, will be going to a presentation by Rocket Fiber in the school district. Brian will be reviewing a intergovernmental agreement which will make us, and we're at the top of the Rocket Fiber list. As you know, they're providing digital audio and everything down in Detroit. They're expanding out to this area. We're first on their list. And we will be building, in conjunction with the school district and all the Grosse Pointes and Harper Woods, our own fiber optic network, which we will have 212 strands of fiber that we will use along with the schools, and there'll be more information about this, but it's really been a project in the works for about 2 years. So,
Is that good, Tina, her Wi-Fi in the park?
yes. That's under review right now, so, we spoke at the Finance Committee meeting also. This is actually a longer project, but in conjunction with the, originally Grosse Pointe Farms and Grosse Pointe Woods and Grosse Pointe Shores, we were looking at a different lockup facility, and Grosse Pointe Woods was given a $500,000 grant. We have to come up with our share, $10,000 of engineering costs, which is not eligible to be repaid by the grant. But they will be building holding facilities and a whole new complex that eventually we'll look at. The Farms has pulled out of this, at least at this point, so we will be complying with concerns of our insurance carrier in terms of the lockup and dispatch center. That will not affect the court system whatsoever. In addition to that, boy, I can't believe it's been that long ago and it's soon, the 2020 census program will be beginning shortly. Each of us 5 years ago, no, 10 years ago, whenever it was, contributed $5,000 to have the chamber do this on behalf of all 5 or possibly Harper Woods as well. We're gonna do that again. It doesn't make sense for each of us to verify every addresses. And of course, for the 4 of the communities, the 6 that are waterfront, one of my favorite unique things is on actual census day, we get to count the staff on any freighters that are going by and register them in our community. So, as well as anybody staying on their boats, et cetera. We don't have to. We just look it up on the website. I forgot the website, but you can see who's going by that day and what their staff and all that stuff. Boy, tour the waterfront, closing on a lot. Our dealings with Wayne County. We have been, for more than a year, engaged in providing them the backup so we can get reimbursed for the 8 bike fix-it stations that we put the first one in. And we check on this regularly. This was probably, we spent more time on this than probably the $10,000 in dollar value that we're going to get back. So we are still trying to, they seem to always need something extra that we provided them 4 times before, but we'll do it again so we can get that back. And an interesting statistic, actually it was the mayor who asked about this some time ago, we currently have 5 people on Meals on Wheels here in our community, and possibly a 6th. So that's it for me.
Mark, is WOW all, I'm sorry, Tim.
No, you go.
Is WOW all installed?
Not all installed, but totally built. So they're in the process, and we're actually we're very close to replacing Comcast in all of our systems here.
I have a question that was brought up when we were talking about these seascapes at the Improvement Foundation. Because that is technically Wayne County land that these are on, is there any way that we could submit for a grant from Wayne County to improve those?
No, I don't think so. Certainly can ask, but as you know, we take care of the boulevards ourselves, and things, because their maintenance standards are lower than the state. And if you've traveled any freeways, you see how often they cut grass or plant trees or things like that.
That's a good question to ask Kylene. You know, give that Wayne County Commissioner something to do.
Can ask them, certainly. We can put a written letter or request or ask them to come and explain.
Yeah.
It's a good suggestion.
Would you say they would cut the grass twice a year?
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
And
Yeah.
the unique part of the agreement, Brett,
And only if you can drive on it.
is if we take down a tree, I think if we ask them to take down a tree, 6 months later to a year later, it comes down. So we don't even do that. I think they may even reimburse us. Brett would know that Brett would know that for sure, but I'll ask Tim about that.
And also, this is something that, again, hits closer to home. We have had some companies come to drop lines for cable. It has been a all-summer project where our lawns, you've seen them, you came over to see, look like airport runways. Just the flags, the paint, the walking back and forth all over our landscaping. We thought the project was done after, I don't know how many weeks of no cable one day, no cable the next day. They hit the main cable line. They didn't, you know, it was just a whole fiasco. But then to come back, like, after the holiday, and they tore up everything again because they put it in, I quote, backwards. You know, I mean, I just don't know who's minding the store. And why, as residents, are we exposed to 6, 7, 8 men in our backyards constantly, morning, noon, night, walking, ruining flowers, ruining this? And I'm just speaking from me personally right now in my neighborhood in the last month and a half that this has been going on. And I know it happens everywhere. And you know, we talk about an easement. Well, you saw where my flags were. They were when you step off the deck. That's no one's easement there. That, you know, that's my property. The neighbors, the spray paint all over the cement driveways. I mean, no regard for our homes and our property. And we need to either be warned that they're coming, because we're never warned. I mean, we're never told that they're coming. They just show up in your backyard. And you know, what can we do to protect our neighbors and ourselves from this intrusion?
Well, the answer is very little. Sadly, the Michigan Public Service Commission, who I think the utilities are just about in bed with anyway, and everybody is moving forward with fiber optics, and you know, with the DTE and the consumers. What Brett has actually done, I think, has been pretty successful. First of all, we've required and thrown people out of our city. Some of their workers or some of their subs have not been acceptable to us in terms of the work they're doing. Bob knows some of those same companies that have been subs for either DT or and stuff. But he also, Brett meets with those people almost every Wednesday, and we have numbers available that people will respond pretty quickly. We've asked them to provide notices. You know, you're going to act on Verizon is going to be another company doing the exact same thing, because they're all trying to throw fiber in here and beat everyone else in terms of getting your business through either cable or phone service or things like that. And sadly, at the federal level, the success of the National Cable Television Association, and particularly AT&T as well, has done that our hands to regulate those are pretty much tied. And the Public Service Commission, who took over this as part of a uniform franchise several years ago, said we don't have any money to enforce it. And finally they got some more money, so they decided they'd take back over. So all we can do is write complaint to the Public Service Commission, and that's, what they do is send a note to the company. Did you break this? Are you gonna fix it? Oh, okay, it's closed. I mean, literally, that's the
It was
case. But
crazy.
we can require them to provide better notice when we know that they're gonna do it. But we've had people show up, think that they can operate under the Metro Act, which has taken away a lot of those, our authority. In some states, you're able to regulate rights of way and say, you as a company coming in, you gotta pay us for the use of that right of way. Unfortunately, their lobbyists were better than ours at the state level, so they get public access use of the public rights of ways. And you're right, in terms of the flags and all that stuff, they don't come and pick them up.
No.
But
And
Brett
we-
was successful in getting, I think DTE to put money in reserve. I think.
We have, yes, and we've charged them, back charged them if they have not been willing to pay for things. And as Rhonda said earlier, on Duval, they broke something and we back charged them for it, so.
And then just one more thing, and then I'll be quiet today. I've had a few requests about the home on Lake Shore, and I don't know the address, I apologize for that, that looks like a nightclub on the outside, right here, that,
It's the old Babcock house.
okay, the old Babcock house.
The one that was vacant.
Russian house.
Remember, it was vacant for such a long time.
Right, and now it
Katrina.
looks like a nightclub. I mean, it looks like a really nice nightclub on the outside, so I'm sorry whoever owns it. What goes on there that they are having these parties and the linens are out on the tables for days and weeks? I mean, are we okay with that?
Are we okay with it? No, but that was a place, as you know, there were squatters in there at one
Yes.
point, and
It was flooded and, yes.
the guy and his wife who bought it, refurbished homes in old areas and stuff, have had numerous parties there, even before they even had an occupancy
Right,
permit and stuff.
right.
We can pay it a little bit more attention to.
Remember, that's his
you have
backyard.
contacts there.
You know, literally, that would be, because there is no backyard in that home.
So that is his backyard.
Yeah.
There was a pool back there and they closed the pool.
Right.
From
It's a
where
year to
that
get
house
that.
was, this is a godsend.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
we don't have
Yeah.
joggers going down to the lower level to relieve themselves down in, they would do that.
Seriously.
Well, it was a non-conforming home right from day one.
Yeah.
It was here when we got here, right, Ted?
That's right, okay.
Well, the
All right.
chief did take care of the traffic problem they were creating on Lake Shore.
Okay.
Parking on the big vehicles, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, good.
thanks. All right, I'm
Um,
done.
Old business, none, new business. The Osias Park tennis courts.
Yeah, this is the second set of bids that were taking place, and they're really much more in line with the numbers we were told initially. The research on this is we will accept the 3 as was mentioned by the resident earlier. We think that's very sufficient for us and would provide less maintenance in the long term anyway. The subs are fine. As was mentioned earlier, there is some logic between preserving it along with the fencing until spring when they're gonna start construction. I think they're planning to start April 1 and will complete, not by, if, again, weather's good, they will complete early. But I think it was June 15th or something like that. We're recommending the low bidder. There's no reason not to. There was some discussion also at finance in advance of that too, that we sent to council. Because actually, any of the bidders are capable of doing this. Second bidder was only 2,000 apart, but he had in his specs the use of recycled material. We wanted all virgin material. And figured we're starting over, we put the right stuff in.
This doesn't include electrical, though, does it?
No.
But this includes poles and lights, and new lights, or just existing?
We were gonna be redoing the existing lights into LEDs. And Bob and Brett are researching that. We have a proposal from one vendor on that. I guess I've even looked at it.
And recondition the existing poles?
Yes.
Take them down. sandblast and powder coat them and put them back up? Is that what we would do?
Zard's gonna do that.
Yeah,
I thought we were taking down some of the construction, our DPW.
No.
That's
The
something-
light poles.
The light poles
That's
have
not-
a
you're
substantial
talking about
amount of
fencing.
rust on them.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
is the light poles that gotta be taken down and sandblasted.
And we know what the price to do, the savings to do that. The problem is, in the spring, that's when those guys are busy. We don't have our summer help yet. For $8,000 and us having to rent possibly a High Ranger or a bucket truck to do it, not sure we're gonna do that yet. But that's, when you approve, if you approve the recommended low bidder, we know what the value of that is. And anytime we can, our guys will save the money.
Now, this doesn't, going back to what the Improvement Foundation made the offer, this doesn't include the netting.
That is correct. New nets or,
The windscreens, the windscreens.
Oh, the
Windscreens and-
nets?
and the fencing.
Do they put the posts in for the nets?
Yes. Oh, yeah, this is
I
all.
don't- I
complete.
don't
Yes,
play
I'm
tennis, I
sorry.
don't know.
I was thinking of two different things. The windscreens are not included, but all of the fencing and the posts and all that stuff are included in
Fencing is
putting it, yeah.
What color? Did they specify?
Now, we're gonna look at that. But it won't be maize and blue, though. It might be blue and gold.
We don't know if there's an upcharge for black or not, or
Yeah.
voted.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't know that.
And Mark, you talked to this Jason Stoops, I think, regarding the tennis court mix or 36-8
Yeah.
mix. So we're relying on our experts here, our engineers to,
The engineers and the testing company, and really the difference between the two is the use of recycled material. We wanted virgin material, so.
now, are they using the same subcontractors when I looked at the,
Yes.
because I look at
The
the,
surfacing.
they deduct alternate number one, it ranges from 68,000 to 70,000, which is so narrow for four bidders. And then two of them are identical, you know, the 69,440. It's identical to Best and Nagel, so they're doing it, they're using the same subcontractor?
Subcontractors for the painting surface, yes.
For that-
Three-level surface.
The three-level
It's
versus
the same in both cases.
What's the warranty? I mean, we're talking about all of this now. What type of warranty do we have on these courts? Cracking?
Typically a year. You
That's
don't
it?
get much longer.
Asphalt's about a year.
Yeah.
And what are we doing about maintenance? To maintain these so that this doesn't happen?
Well, again, we will be budgeting resurfacing as we need to, whether it's 3 years or 5 years, I don't remember. But we'll be repainting the lines and surfaces and devoting the necessary funds to making sure that they're maintained in good shape.
What about landscaping? Are we gonna do that later?
Yeah.
And right now, we're just doing hard scapes,
Right.
so to speak.
The approval of these bids is just the removal of the existing and the, we'll be coming back to you with the other electrical stuff that we have to do in the park and things like that.
So really, in this contract will probably be altered, because there may be an upcharge to the fencing color, correct?
Yeah.
They want black vinyl, if we wanted black vinyl, I guarantee that's gonna cost more than standard galvanized fencing. And if you're asking for
Screen
whatever,
now,
so
yeah.
what we're basically trying to do tonight is book the time for the
Yep.
contractor on a not-to-exceed basis. Because you know, we have the generous offer of the Improvement Foundation for all those landscaping is clearly gonna be that, it's clearly gonna be benches. It also depends on what we come back with on the other park plan
Mhm.
in terms of doing those costs.
Are we gonna have a pickleball court painted on one of these courts?
It'd be nice to make it permanent by the basketball courts, to have an area, maybe even have two courts
That
there.
is more likely that we're gonna do that.
Put 'em over there, okay.
I played, I don't, you know, those who play tennis,
Don't like it.
Sure.
I know.
Yeah.
I do.
I don't
Court
like
on
it.
it. Yeah, they don't like it in
No,
winter,
they don't
no.
like it, but a lot of, pickleball is starting to become very popular, especially in the age group that I'm getting to, and
If some of us already are, but.
It's the
refuse
fastest
to
growing
acknowledge
racket
it.
sport in America.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
And they have tournaments now, even in Naples, Florida, that
Yeah.
are really, so I would, it doesn't, if you should stripe one of those courts a nice new court so that you don't discriminate against people who choose to play an alternative sport on the same field.
I know my wife
Wait
plays
till I
the
roll up my
pickleball
family.
court by the basketball court, so.
Where's he come up?
That might be a good area to
Again,
have a
with
good-
the unit prices that, when
Alternatives.
council approves this, it includes at unit prices, so we're able to utilize them for other things.
So just to restate this, the lowest bid was $316,322 by Nagel Paving. And then there's an offset, a deduction if we don't go with the five-court mix, five-court layer of $69,440. So the net cost of the tennis courts as bare bones is $246,882. So I need a motion to accept this proposal by our expert, AEW, to rebuild the tennis courts.
So moved.
Is there support?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Would we want to make that 250, just to make it round and make it
Yeah,
easy?
that's good.
Okay, we can round it off at 250,000 for different colored poles and for extras. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, good.
Thank you.
This has been a long time coming. The community is really looking forward to it. And the last item, new item, is the, Mark, you want to discuss the,
Here again, this is taken out of our hands, the lobbying for all of these agencies that want to do things like Verizon, all the so-called cable companies. They came up with a Metro Act, which allows, we get paid a very small amount on a per-foot basis of what they actually build in the right-of-way. And certainly we have to always cross-check that because they try to cheat on it. But we have a request from Verizon to do this, and it's, I believe this one is this is their standard format that we have to respond to within a period of time, or it's deemed approved. Because again, they have great lobbyists. Instead of us being able to deny it, it's very difficult to do that. It's a combination of stringing new lines as well as some gadgets some very small things that they attach to the phones, to the poles in the system that are in the right of way. And we have really almost no choice on this, recommend approval, so.
and it's a 30-year agreement, it's a 15-year term with 3 5-year renewal terms, automatic?
All in keeping with the,
For your special friends.
the way that this has been approved by the state.
So it's an adhesion contract.
Yes.
Okay, I need a motion to accept a resolution that we have in our package on page 62, 63, and 64.
So moved.
Is there support? Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public comment. We have any public comment? Oh, George.
Talked about Full Circle tonight. They are having a gala on October 26th from 6:30 to 10:30, Full Circle, to benefit the Full Circle Foundation. Tickets are available at fullcirclefnd.org. And rumor has it there will be 5 local residents paired with professional dancers that will be forming a dance routine for the crowd that evening.
Oh.
Thank you. George McMullen, 1382 Hollywood.
Thank you, George.
Hello again, I know, I'll be brief. George Nichols again, 51 Fontana Lane. I'd come and spoke in front of the council at the July meeting with regards at that time the new gate, the issues of the new gatehouse. On the agenda at that time was that 3-phase Osh's Park improvement recommendation that at that time was withdrawn. I had quite a number of things I wanted to talk about, but Councilman Bisbal kind of beat me to the punch when he talked about the finance report. So it's nice to see that you're willing to take the time to investigate, collect the data, get the information that's needed, and share that with the residents before anything is made. And especially when you said even talking to the city park. At that time, I'd spoken to them as well to find out, because we're very similar in nature in that way. And they'd said that the reason they don't have that is, in that case, if I remember correctly, the land was not available to put a gatehouse at the entrance. But they do have the fact of doing the parking stickers and preventing cars from parking there illegally, as I think we've also been told that that happens at our park here. They have people parking there, carpooling, going downtown to events, coming back. They've since then introduced the parking stickers, have been ticketing people, and I was told that that has gone down. So maybe that is something that could be looked upon here too. So, which is nice. And of course, the award of the recommendation for the tennis courts was nice to see that progressing forward as well, and saving that cost that I spoke earlier about. Just for your knowledge, it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's Goddard Tennis Surface is the one that's the subcontractor to Nagel Contractors for that work. So again, just want to enforce in the council to share that information, gather the data that's necessary, making wise choices before spending foolishly, as we kind of saw with the whole tennis court issue, how we had to keep going back to the engineer to do redesigns of things. It wasted money that I feel was unnecessary. But if you do the homework up front, gather the data, gather the information, do what's best, share that to see what was best, what the residents want, I think you'll gain a lot of ground in that fashion with the residents and the improvements to the park everywhere that goes, whether it's new lighting, new gatehouse if that's needed, as you mentioned, housing, employment of a new person up front, plus maybe having to keep another one at the current location as well. Want to make sure that that's done in a proper fashion. So I commend you for taking that time and sharing that with us here tonight.
God, his head keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Well, thank you very much.
So you're welcome. And also with the improvements, as Jesse from HRC spoke about, doing the monitoring, doing the investigation, why is the extra CFS in the system, it's important to find that out because that's a big cost savings. I've been doing that for 25 years. I'm a civil engineer, so I knew exactly what he was talking about. So when you're talking about, how some people may have been yawning, I was very eager to hear what was going on with all that. So, and I look forward to seeing what improvements and what that shows as far as reducing the flow.
Hear that. I'm not trying to be.
What is that?
This is the actual detailed presentation.
Oh,
that
okay. I was
HRC
going to call Jesse tomorrow and ask him for that, so.
So if you'd like a copy of it, you're welcome.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Well, thank you. I know it's been a late night, so I appreciate your time and thank you again.
Later than this.
I'm sorry?
We've been here later.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? If not, council comment? Bob?
I have nothing more.
Tina?
No.
Bruce? Bob?
Nothing further?
Doug?
99.
Wow, 0 for 6. Well, I just, a short summary. We had tennis tournament a few weeks ago, and the winner of the tennis doubles tournament was Ryan Shupp, a prior winner, and Sam Perry. I mean, this was the last year on our old courts, so we all kind of celebrated after and said, okay, next year we're going to have 4 new courts here. I want to thank Rini Siegel for helping organize this event. Well, we haven't talked, Rhonda, about the classic car show. I mean, last weekend, amid great weather, it was a huge success. We had 75 registered cars, 75. Last year, I think we had 44 vehicles, 46 vehicles. So we almost doubled the number of vehicles from last year to this year. We had 5 major awards for the 3 American car classifications, 1 for imports and 1 for other former manufacturers. And the other was won by the mayor of Harper Woods, Ken Pointer, his 1942 Hudson. So I want to thank Rhonda for a tremendous job organizing it. And I should thank also my neighbor. My neighbor donated the tote bags with the beautiful Grosse Pointe Shores cloths to dust your classic car with. So I think it was a great idea. So 2nd year this year, it'll be 3rd year next year, Rhonda. Thanks again. It was just such a nice day. Well,
Don't tell him mine.
I didn't bring my car.
Get your.
We have the,
You can reach behind him, get his.
due to popular demand, we have the chess tournament coming up Sunday, October 1st at 2 o'clock. Our co-chairs are Bruce's neighbor, Bruce Campbell, and Susan Treater. Please contact them for details. I mean, it's a nice, I don't see Vito here today, but it's a nice blend of ages, from ages 10 to 80. you know, so it's very nice. Today, we heard from Brett Marshall, the president of the Grosse Pointe Shores Improvement Foundation. We're very grateful for their support as we collaborate together to make the city a better place. Our foundation was the first one for the Grosse Pointes and was subsequently used as a model. Our articles of incorporation, the bylaws, were used as a model for the other Grosse Pointes. I think the park was the second one. And as they incorporated their own foundations. We have to be very thankful to the founders of this foundation, such as Bill Darling, Kirk Tech, and many others for their hard work in incorporating and developing this very successful foundation. And then a couple years ago, I talked about having a wall of honor. And I'd like to go back in December. We're going to have our volunteer reception party here after the council meeting. And I'd like to award on an annual basis for extraordinary service to their community, a Grosse Pointe Shores resident, to be, probably we have to find a wall space suitable, probably in the adjoining room. But I think that's important as we recognize our volunteers for what they're doing to make this city a better place. You know, we're going to have the committee appointments and commission appointments probably in November of this year, so I invite anybody who's thinking about or having an interest in joining a committee to submit their applications to the city to be a volunteer. And last, actually, this is probably the best news of the day. The chief gave it to me today. On Saturday, October 14th, everyone keeps saying, what's that big container in the parking lot? What's that big container in the parking lot? And those are the tools that we were able to seize as part of extraordinary police work. And we have the tools that have not been returned. It's a huge inventory of items. And we're going to have on a one-day-only basis, Saturday, October 14th. I don't think it'll conflict with any football games, I don't think. I didn't look at the schedule. But at 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, a tool sale to be held for Shores residents only. And you have to have a driver's license. We're going to have a limit of 2 items per household. We're asking for a nominal $5 cost for each of the items. And of course, removal has to be done immediately, and it's as-is conditions so that we can relocate the storage container. And, but I wanted it so that when you use that tool, you'll be thinking of, this was public safety that gave me this tool. And it was something that, you know, I think, Mark, we talked about, and you talked to the chief about. I think this is a nice touch to have the residents share in this extraordinary windfall. So,
Is there any way that we can, like, get residents or anyone to, an inventory of what's in there? I mean, because, you know, tools, are there lawnmowers, are there edgers, are there just hammers?
It's power tools mostly.
Yeah, and there's a variety of things. We tried taking a photo, an actual little video of it, but the original inventory was 117 pages
Oh, my, okay.
of stuff. So, and there's everything from buckets of screwdrivers and hammers and stuff.
The best way is to come in and do it because it is stacked so deep.
Okay.
You can look at the front as you walk in, and you don't see the 10 tools that are behind it.
Oh, okay.
This is,
Locating a tool would be just
Okay.
awesome.
and it's known as Ted's Tool Shack. Come on down.
I don't know about that, but I think that.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I wanted so that, you know, hopefully we have, maybe the chief doesn't want to hear this. Hopefully we have like 300 or 400 residents that come and they clear everything out that day, and they feel good about sharing this windfall. So,
Ted,
thank
there's
you.
one thing that the chief is also, I want not to interrupt. You know, leftover tools, the public library will be a land recipient in the tool lending program.
Oh, that's
Good.
right. That's right.
We're
That's good.
gonna invite them to come and look at it. I could call Jessica Kaiser, the new director, and just remind me, in addition, if you look where our mailbox and the US Post Office mailbox, you're going to see a new pad poured, because we will be the first community to receive from the public library a new book return box that will be placed between those, so you can drop off here, and probably in each of the communities, other locations, for book drop-off, and they will come and collect them, and you won't get fined.
That's a nice service.
Nice.
Is that for all their libraries or just the one?
Oh,
No, for all libraries, and
Okay.
Okay. Rhonda?
Also, if anyone is interested, those tote bags that you received,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
we do have, say, maybe 20 left over, that they will be available for sale for $12 upstairs.
Oh,
And you can put your 2 tools in there,
That's
when
right.
you come to the, well, thank you, Rhonda. Okay. Our next meeting is October 17th at 7 o'clock. I need a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank everyone for coming.
thank you.
I tried, yeah, okay. My brother-in-law died, and so